हॅलो हॅलो हां घरी घरी जा मी पोहोचला आहे. हॅलो तिथे विचार ना हर्षद राहतो विजय काय झाला तिथे विचार ना आदर्श नगर तिथे बिल्डिंग नंबर 4 हां तिथे भाजीवाला वगैरे असतील आई मी आता फोन नव्हतं ना शूटमध्ये कॅमेरा वगैरे तर तिथे विचार हर्षद जोरात कुठं राहतो आदर्श नगर हो
All students will stand to welcome our guest. They'll come in a few minutes.
Stand करायचं ना सर. अच्छा असं आहे का? मग आम्ही
Very warm welcome. Very good morning and very warm welcome to all of you. Science Association of Satish Dyanasadhana College organizes today's program in association with the Thane to celebrate National Science Month. National Science Day is on the 20th of February. So we are going to celebrate National Science Month. Science Association of our college every year conduct various programs like guest lectures, poster competitions, many kind of the quiz and etc. mainly to develop a scientific attitude and to expose various fields of the science among the students. Always our endeavor is to grow seed of a scientific research in young minds. Vigyan Bharati, previously known as the Swadeshi Science Movement, is an organization which is working for science popularization and implementation of the modern technology and ancient science in India. So, few of our goals are same. So we have decided to conduct programs in association with the Vigyan Bharati. This is
तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
I invite Principal Dr. Siri Marathe to speak about the college.
Today's speaker on the dais, Nilesh Oak, Dr. Pradhan sir, Bhave sir, our treasurer Satish, all the working force of Vigyan Bharati, who is behind organizing this lecture, my colleagues, people from all around Thane who have specially come for this particular lecture. I welcome on behalf of Satish, Pradhan and Pradhan College to our institution. A warm welcome to you all. As rightly said by Naitha Madam, this is a program conducted by Science Association of this college along in joint venture with Vigyan Bharati, and ahead we may sign a MOU with Vigyan Bharati so that many such programs will come up in the coming years. Ours is an institution which is more than 35 years old, wherein students from 11th standard entry point and exit point can be up to PhD. We are catering almost 8,000 students, including junior college. And this particular occasion on which this lecture is being kept, I am happy to tell you that you can tell your friends around this, without your permission, sir, this talk of Dr. Oak is going on Facebook Live. So you can tell your friends that this is available on our Facebook page. Just type Satish, Pradhan and Dyanasadhana College. To some of you, I have given the Facebook link, and from this year 2019-2020, we have started at almost all programs. We are going on Facebook Live. Last series of lectures we normally conduct in the month of December. Both the lectures have gone on Facebook Live, and there were more than 5,000 viewers who actually viewed the program right when it was going. And good part of this is that even if you miss this opportunity, actually during this time, being on the Facebook, you can see it later also. And therefore, it is a great opportunity for all Thanites and your friends who can tell that this lecture is going on Facebook Live. I welcome all of you without taking much time. I stop here and wish you will have a very good time from 10:30 onward till he ends up his lecture. Thank you.
Now I request Dr. Manisha for the Vigyan Bharati presentation.
We will be obstacle for others.
In resonance with India's heritage can combat these challenges steps of the repeated Swadeshi science movement. Was instituted in the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, by a few eminent scientists under the guidance of Professor United States Institute of Science and Technology. In resonance with India's heritage, not only the motherland of art, culture, philosophy, science, spirituality was conceptualized in the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, by a few eminent scientists under the guidance of Professor K.I. Vasu. They celebrated November 7, 1982, the birthday of Sri C.V. Raman as Swadeshi Science Day.
India had a wonderful heritage in science, engineering and technology. And therefore we started thinking in the students and faculty of Indian Institute of Science how we can project this to the world, the Indian contribution to science and technology.
This movement gradually gained impetus and emerged as an organization with national presence. On 20th and 21st October 1991, at the Nagpur meet, it was decided to launch the Swadeshi science movement at all India level with the name Vigyana Bharati, also called Vibha. Today, Vigyana Bharati has its units in 27 plants across the country. It is working in 14 different streams, such as World Ayurvedic Foundation, Bharatiya Vigyan Sammelan, Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Foundation, Rashtriya Yuva Vaigyanik Manch, National Ayurveda Students and Youth Association, Vidyarthi Vigyan Manthan, Vishwa Ved Vigyan Sammelan, Vigyan Prasar Bharati, Energy Innovation and Implementation Foundation Shakti. Today, Vibha has active units in 9 Middle East countries also. It is noteworthy that the Vigyana Bharati has been working incessantly in this regard since its inception.
Vigyan Bharati is a unique movement of science, not only in the Indian context, but also in the universal context, in the global context. It takes a very integral view of the reality. We are not talking simply of the physical reality, we are talking of physical reality, we are talking of biological reality, we are talking about psychological, mental reality, eventually reaching out to the entire environment and also the spiritual reality.
I'd like to share the story of journey of the organization so far. Dr. Anilika Kodkar, former chairman of Department of Atomic Energy, has been the guiding light behind this noble cause. Vigyana Prasara Bharati. Vigyana Prasara Bharati intends to propagate the fundamentals and applications of science across India. Vidyarthi Vigyan Manthan is a unique science talent search examination to nurture the younger generation in schools. based on India's contribution to the world of science. More than 2 lakh students have undergone this test in the last 3 years in India and abroad. Vigyana Bharati or Vibha has been registered in the Guinness Book of World Records for successfully conducting the largest practical science lesson. It was achieved in the sprawling campus of IIT Delhi with help of 2,000 students from various prestigious schools of Delhi during India International Science Festival. Vibha received Giving Back UBM, the most impactful project of the year for India International Science Fair. Vibha also received 2 awards, the Honorable Mention Award and the Popular Choice Award in Crowds Climate Conference 2015 at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, USA.
Vigyan Bharati's 25 years of journey from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore to Nagpur and the entire nation, which we have covered all the states and almost all the research and development organizations in the country.
Out and out, this has been a glorious journey. The team, the energy, the collaborative efforts have so far delivered enduring results and leave no stone unturned to take the country on the path of progress, harmony and equity. Let success attend are all endeavors for the good of the nation and of humanity at large, and indeed all life on earth. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kasyit Dukbhag Bhave. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Good morning. Good morning. Respected dignitaries, chief guest for today's function, all the student friends. So we are here for a very good lecture, which we expect during the next 1.5 hours or so, 1 hour. Okay, then the question answer session will be there. I'm here for only 2 minutes to just brief you about Vibha. You have seen the film which was made some 4 years back. That was Vigyan Bharati, as the name suggests. It is about Indian science, okay, and scientists. Maybe the ancient Indian science or today's science, which is growing in India. For example, the movie mentioned about Dr. Vijay Bhatkar. How many of you are aware of this? Okay. Okay. So he is the person we should know. We should know that he has made the supercomputer in India for the first time. He is the one. See that. Okay, so we are unaware of many of our science and scientists, and that is the main aim of Vigyan Bharati, as we have seen in the film. So Thane Vibhag actually belongs to Konkan Prant, and this has started only some 4 or 5 years back, and we are emerging as an organization here in all the facets which you saw, 14 of the aspects. We are working with VVM, where thousands of students from all over Maharashtra take part, all over India, not only from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, it is from Kashmir to Andaman. More than 1 lakh students take part in the VVM exam, and that is held from 6th standard to 11th standard students. So we want the young minds of India to gain the information and knowledge what our science or scientists have done over a period of thousands of years till today. Okay? That is the main aim of Vibha. And in Thane Vibha, we hold some seminars, workshops, etc. for school students as well as for teachers and the students of college also. Okay? So we especially celebrate some days like National Science Day, which is coming this month, then National Mathematics Day, which comes in December, with Ramanujan's name. Have you heard of? Yes. Okay, very good. right? Then Technology Day, which is the Pokhran Divas. So all these are celebrated in a unique way, and we are open to suggestions and feedback from your part. Okay? Any new suggestions come up, we take up that. For example, 2 years back, we had a suggestion from BPM Polytechnic in Thane that we should have a project review of all the students which are appearing for the diploma in 3rd year. So our team of experts visited the college. Usually only the college professors do the judging of those. So we have done it for them. Similarly with Dyanasadhana College, we are starting with a new chapter today. With MOU may be signed during the next few days. And we are, as I said, we are open to suggestions. So whatever suggestions, for example, some 2 days back we talked to your Nyayate madam, and she said that she can arrange a stargazing program. So we are open to that also. We had held some workshop for school children to make handmade paper. So not only know or make you aware of the science, and also prepare you for whatever are the hazards of today's science or scientific developments. Okay? So thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I don't take much time of yours. I give it to your Nyayate madam. Thank you.
All leaders, Dr. Bhave, Dr. Marathi. We are going to do the first. I request Principal Marathi sir to welcome our guest to give them other token our Dyanasadhana gift. Principal sir to Dr. Oak. Dr. Bhave. Dr. Bharat. On behalf of Vigyan Bharati, I request Dr. Bhave to facilitate Dr. Oak. I request now I request Knight sir to facilitate Seth sir. Satish sir.
This is a book published by Vigyan Bharati. Everybody should have a look at this book and should have be in their library also, personal library.
Now I request Dr. Hadamis madam to introduce Dr. Bharat.
Good morning all. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Bhalchandra Bhave. He's an MSc in Physics and MTech and PhD in Electrical Engineering from the prestigious IIT Mumbai. He is a scientific officer. He has worked as a scientific officer at the Bhabha Atomic Research Center for about 34 years in the field of scientific research and technology development in electronic devices, the development of technology and instrumentation with related to infrared and low light level imaging. He has published many research papers in the national and international journals. He is a member of several professional associations. Dr. Bhave has been working with the Vigyan Bharati, a voluntary organization promoting science awareness, and he is involved in activities related to science promotion, education and publications. He has taken active interest in organizing seminars, workshops, lectures and field studies, and currently he is working as the Vice President for the Vigyan Bharati, Mumbai. Thank you. I now request Mr. Bhave to please speak a few words.
Thanks a lot for a nice introduction. It is much more than what I've actually done. Actually, all of us are very eager to hear Professor Oak. Calling him Professor because he certainly has been that and has done very exceptional work, right? And we have a special reason to feeling close to him because he has done his bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from UDCT, from Mumbai. In that sense, he is a Mumbaiker for all of us. And I welcome him and all the guests here. And instead of spending any time, I think we should start with the program. Thank you very much.
I would like to introduce now Dr. Nilesh Oak, who is our current guest of honor. Mr. Nilesh Neelkantha Oak, he holds a degree in MBA and he is an MS and BS in chemical engineering. He is also an adjunct professor, assistant professor at the School of Index Studies, Institute of Advanced Sciences, Dartmouth, Massachusetts, USA. He resides in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. So he is one of the Indians who has made India proud abroad. Mr. Nilesh is currently working, he has worked in the corporate world for about 20 and more years in energy, aviation, materials and business development. He was an executive corporator trainer for 15 plus years in Lean Six change acceleration process, action workouts and advanced courses in material characterization, reliability, statistical tolerancing and design of experiments. Apart from his technical know-how, he is an author by passion and he writes extensively on ancient Indian history at www.nileshoak.wordpress.com. He is currently working on
Namaskar. Everyone can hear me well? Alright. Very happy to be here. and thank you everyone for coming on. What day is it? Saturday morning. Okay. Beyond Thane, I think there are few individuals who have come to listen to me. In fact, every place I go, we have to go through the whole, I would call it Indian formalities, and then sometimes it takes time. And so, some people will come from distant places, and I may not get more than a minute to say hi to them, and then I feel very guilty that they came from distant places. So I'll just acknowledge at least the couple that I know. So here we have someone from Pune, and he flew from Indore to come to Mumbai first to listen to me, and then go back to Pune. And besides me, there is someone else from America. So he came 3 o'clock in the morning. My classmate of 30, happy birthday. And he straight came to this venue, after this. So actually, I'm meeting him, believe it or not, after 30 years. And as it happens, in America, we live possibly maybe 3 hours of driving distance. And I pass through his area. He lives very close to Oak Ridge National Lab. Okay, nothing to do with my name, by the way. So getting into ancient Indian medicinal sciences, sometimes because of the format, the slides might move a little bit because I see the sciences coming down. So bear with me. Out of all the sciences that India has developed, this is just a one small slice. Just before the presentation, someone asked me, why just ancient Indian medicinal sciences? Have you worked on other areas? And I said, I have. But the challenge is, if you want to go in depth in certain area, you cannot do that more than, it takes days and people don't have that much patience. And so eventually I will give you the message, which is like, if you find something fascinating, you have to do self-study. Swadhyaya Pravachanencha. You have to do self-study, there is no alternative to it. But the objective of my presentation, and I'll go for like 45-50 minutes, maybe max hour, I do tell them, because what happens is people wonder, my God, how long this guy is going to go? Okay, so if you find it boring, I'll give you another alternative. You can start clapping. Then I know I should stop. Okay. So why medicinal sciences? And as I said, it's just a one slice. Actually, the book that was given to me, it talks of many, like 10, 15 different subjects. So medicinal science is just a slice of it. And out of that slice, I'm going to take another thinner slice, just to give you a flavor of what is out there. So as a case study, I'm taking 3 case studies to just give you a flavor in the language of prevention, cure, and patient management. Okay, so I will take case study each from each of these disciplines. Smallpox inoculation, and next to that I have written Banaras Brahmins or even Vrindavan Brahmins. But before I go there, let me ask you, most of your science students, or even if not, as soon as you hear smallpox inoculation, Devi, in Marathi Devi, right? What comes to mind? Like, who invented the treatment for smallpox inoculation? What is the name? Yeah, I always get the first answer, that is Louis Pasteur, and that's the wrong answer. So let's go to the next one. Edward Jenner. Okay, so Louis Pasteur, good one. It's the correct answer to another question. Okay, so Edward Jenner is the correct answer. Now I'll tell you the context of it. That's what we know, and nothing wrong with it. Edward Jenner indeed did a great work related to smallpox inoculation. Okay, the second one I want to briefly talk about is a rhinoplasty, nose operation, plastic surgery. Okay, and where did it originate? How did it propagate? And what were some of the innovations that were made in this discipline? And the level of improvisation, or the freedom of improvisation. Okay, so if you, in Indian context, we hear the word Sanatana Vedic Dharma or Sanatana Sanskriti, right? Now, Yaskacharya, who wrote Nirukta, a guide to understand the Vedas, do you know how he defined Sanatana? He defined Sanatana as a Sanatano Nitya Nutana. Okay, Sanatana is that which has the ability, which wishes to continuously refresh for the time, place and circumstances. So we will see the improvisation, where does it come from and how much improvisation they did. And the last one, I thought I'll pick this up because you will be familiar with it. you actually sometimes may prefer to be like him, I don't get enough sleep, Kumbhakarna. And we will see a case study for Kumbhakarna. I would like to summarize my work quickly. So you say, why am I standing here and why I'm talking about ancient medicinal system? My research didn't begin there. It started with one verse from Mahabharata. Actually, somebody mentioned in my introduction the first book on Mahabharata dating. When did the Mahabharata war happen? So this was just one verse. I ran randomly into a library in the University of Alberta when I was doing my master's in chemical engineering. The verse goes something like this: Ya Chaisha Visruta Rajas Trailoke Sadhu Sammata Arundhati Daya Pesha Vasishta Prushtata Prata. Arundhati is walking ahead of Vasishta at the time of Mahabharata war. And all the astronomers of the world said this is impossible. This is some rubbish somebody inserted into the Mahabharata text. And in science, we make assumptions, right? You can make assumptions and then you test it whether it's true or false. We say assumptions can be made without supposing them. Means what? Without supposing them to be true. But you can test it and see what happens. So I said, let's test. And I thought maybe I'll spend a weekend. I was naive then, I spent 15 years just chasing that one verse. And what I'm showing you is a quick summary of it. So I started with that one verse, and then when I finally made a breakthrough with that reference, that's not the subject of today's talk, then I extracted all the astronomy references from Mahabharata text, and like a jigsaw puzzle I put them together, and that took me to 5561 BCE as the year of Mahabharata war. Then I did the same thing for Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana is much shorter, much smaller comparison to Mahabharata. Out of 24,000 verses, I extracted close to 600 specific astronomy references. It surprised me. I didn't think there would be those many. Again, I put them as a jigsaw puzzle. It took me to a very specific year and no other year, 12,209 BC for the year of Ram Ravan Yuddha. And then someone in 2016, the director of the institute that I am connected with, Institute of Advanced Sciences, we work on many areas, the Indic studies, but also botulinum. Have you heard of botulinum? Botox? Botox? Everyone knows Botox, makes you look beautiful. Yeah. Now the botulinum is a deadly poison. Okay? And some of the insights that we get for botulinum study, but it can be a magical cure for many things, beyond making you look beautiful, is, it comes from Vaisheshika Siddhanta. Like, dilution. If you dilute something, the properties change. And Vaisheshika Siddhanta talks about it. Like space, change of space will give you different properties to a dravya. So if you give it in a parts per billion or parts per billion, like very dilute proportion, it's so poisonous it will kill you. It will kill you in less than a minute. But if you turn that into parts per trillion and more, lo and behold, it makes you look beautiful. Yeah? Now, I'm not suggesting that, but that's what people do. So the director of that institute came to me and said, well, that's great, you have done for Mahabharata Ramayana, can you do something for Rigveda? So I started I knew only astronomy, so I started there. There are a lot of references. But I couldn't find anything in Rigveda that is astronomical that can help me date Rigveda. So I went to another discipline, which is what we call hydrology, geology, geophysics, geochemistry, archaeology and whatnot. And quickly, I showed that the oldest portion of Rigveda are at least or definitely more than 24,000 years old. Okay? Now my lectures are there on this subject, you can listen to them. Now, why do I give this? This creates the foundation for everything else that we want to discuss about Indian civilization. Okay, so if I'm talking about ancient medicinal sciences, you need this foundation. In a cricket speak, think of this as a playground. If you want to play cricket, you need a playground. Okay, then the whole thing begins, right? Now, I'll go fast on this. Beyond the astronomy, whatever I figured out, I have found evidence from multiple disciplines of science to support these dates. Okay, more than 12 different disciplines. Okay. Now this is our foundation. Now we are going to get into our medicinal science subject. Now one of my friends, he's a British guy, British consultant. He said, Nilesh, he's familiar with my work. He said, this is great, but to give a context to the world, to the global audience, you need to tell them against this 24,000 timeline, where does European Enlightenment fit? Okay, so we said put a dot there. So everyone sees the dot. That's where European Enlightenment began. Okay, 1637. And then one of the things that came out of it is Aryan invasion theory. Number of you have heard it. Okay, I call it Aryan invasion nonsense. I'll not go into it. But then we have our own nonsense. For example, Yuga. We are also stuck into Yugas. Yugas and Mahayugas and all that. Now that's our material is there. But there are multiple definitions, but we are stuck into one definition in a very Andhashraddha, Shraddha fashion. By the way, there is no difference between Shraddha and Andhashraddha. No difference. If I ask you, how many of you think Einstein is a great scientist? Raise your hand. Okay, some of you. Those, if you don't raise, I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you think Newton is a great scientist? Number of you raised the question. How many of us have actually gone into the detail to figure out why he is a great scientist? Most of us have not. So we take it on a leap of faith, Shraddha. And then the third one, I was discussing with some of you before the presentation, that we get sometimes stuck with, whatever archaeology evidence shows us. We cannot go beyond that, That's our other limitation. We don't have to get stuck with that. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Okay. Against this background, I'm going to show you 3 case studies. In case you are wondering, is this guy going to talk about medicinal systems? I am. Okay. The first one I'm going to present you very much in our times. By our times, I mean last 400 years. The second one, I'm going to take you all the way back to Mahabharata times, 7,500 years. By the way, if you want to remember this slide, all you need to know is how many of you speak Marathi or understand Marathi? Okay. Those of you who don't, too bad. No, just kidding. Okay. Remember the Marathi मध्ये साताचा पाडा, If you do that in Marathi at least, 7 के 7, 7 2 14, 7 3 21. That's how you remember. More than 7,000 वर्षापूर्वी महाभारत, 14,000 वर्षापूर्वी रामायण आणि 21,000 वर्षापूर्वी oldest portion of ऋग्वेद. Multiples of 7. Multiples of 7. 7,000 असतात. 7,000, 14,000, 21,000. So anytime somebody asks you now, someone comes from foreign land and asks you how old is your civilization, and don't give that lazy and tamasic answer that you are used to, 5,000 years, that you see everywhere. No, that's nonsensical answer. There is no basis for it. Okay, you just use 7, 14, 21, and so on. So second one is from that Mahabharata time. So at least it goes back to that time. That's what I'm going to show you. And the third one from a Ramayana times, I told you Kumbhakarna, so that's not a surprise. It will go back to 14,000 years. Okay, let's get into it. These are my books. If you are interested, find it. Go to YouTube. You can listen to videos just like Nilesh. You will get 100 plus videos. If you have a sleeping problem, you can start listening to it. If that doesn't work, order my books, start reading them. You will get good night's sleep. This quickly shows you the scientific framework. Inside the triangle, what you see is essentially the scientific method. There are 5 elements to it. Anyone claiming anywhere that something is scientific, you should hold that person responsible and ask that person to explain the middle 5 things. So what is your theory? What is your evidence? How did you test it in an objective fashion? Indriya Pramanya. Theory, before it becomes a Siddhanta, it is a Prameya. Evidence is a Praman. Objective testing is Indriya Pramanya. Inference is Anuman. And background knowledge is Agama. Okay? That's a very limited portion, a particular aspect of a puja or whatever we do. Almost of the good knowledge is here. Okay? Now when I wrote my first book, I did not write anything about this. Then I realized that while common people do understand, many people, many famous researchers or many people in academia actually don't understand what science is or what scientific method is. So then from my second book, I started including, hey, this is science. These are the 5 things. You must insist on it. Then the next time I found a problem, many times they know how to do the experiment. But when it comes to drawing the right inference, like Anuman, they make blunders. So then I have to put another triangle and say, Tarka Shastra, the logic is important. Okay? Then Tantra Yukti, they say, how did you figure it out? How do you know that Arundhati is ahead and so on? I said, it takes some common sense, it takes some basic knowledge of astronomy. You can fight with me on that one. Have to have some agreement on the background knowledge. And Vijnana Buddhi, again you will find this from Shad Darshana. There are 11 elements or tattva of Vijnana Buddhi. We actually discuss few, and I may discuss if I get time. Alright, let's get into our first case study. Smallpox inoculation. Can you see it? Okay. This is a prayer, you don't a prayer to Shitala Devi. Now in Mumbai there is a temple of Shitala Devi. Some of you might be in there. Related to this Devi, smallpox. In fact, when I was growing up, and I don't know when I started reading, my parents are teachers, were teachers, so I think I must have got through infusion. The first thing I remember reading is that time, everywhere there was this campaign going against the Devi, smallpox. And in Marathi मध्ये देवीचा रोगी कळवा रुपये 1000 बक्षीस मिळवा. That's my first line I read, and I said 1000 was a huge number, So I must be like 4 or 5, something like that. And I said this is a fun thing, but I had lots of challenges. I said first, what is this Devi thing? Okay, Devi as a goddess I knew in the temple. So Devi is a rogi, where to find that person, and who to inform? रुपये 1000 बक्षीस मिळवा कळवा, but who to inform where I get my 1000 rupees? Now I didn't find a smallpox, a rogi with a smallpox, and I didn't know who to inform, so I never got my 1000 rupees. Okay? But you see that, and now it's been eradicated. The samples are stored in some place in France and all that. But this is a prayer. Now what you see in the picture is this Shitala Devi is sitting with a broom in one hand. And there is this pot. I'm not going to read the poem or the translation of it from Sanskrit or whatever language into English. And she has a pot. Do you know what it is? Now if you just do it, again you will put a flower, you do namaskar and done. No, it doesn't work like that. It is a metaphor. It's a symbolization pictorially. Like you see the all commercials. Okay, some famous actress holding a soap and you say, let's go buy that soap. Okay? It's something like this. Just through pictorial, through metaphor, the whole science of inoculation is expressed. The broom, the pointed thing. The broom is actually how they use, just like we call it tika, or they used to call it tika. And what she is holding there is the culture. That's how they do the inoculation in Indian system. Now, how far back you see this? Now, that's not to say that it did not exist before, but as a documented evidence, you can see the reference to Shitala in Mahabharata. And I've shown that Mahabharata is older than, timing, older than 7,000 years. Guys, you forget? No, multiplication of 7,000. So you see that, Goro Rupa Nishachari, Pishachi, Daruna Kara, Kathate Shita Putana. The reference to Nishachari, night, is because usually what happens? The person is not feeling well, goes to bed, goes to sleep. When wakes up, suddenly the whole rash and everything comes. So as if like she came during the night. Okay? Shita Putana. You know what is Putana? Like the story of Krishna and Putana. I'm not doing there. Same thing, different disease. But what is Putana? If you understand Sanskrit, people, Shakespeare said, what's in the name? At least in Indian civilization, everything is in the name. Putana. Tana is a skin, sharir. Pu is a pus. Okay? That's Putana. Okay? Just for people to remember, we turn it into a big something coming and so on. Alright. Modern Western clients and smallpox inoculation. Let's take a timeline here. Edward Jenner was born in 1739. He became a doctor in 1792. He started doing experimentations, worked with cows. Do you know why it is called cowpox? Vaccination? Yeah? Anyone? Because in Latin, vacca. Vacca means cow. Those of you who have read Indic literature, they will also know this. In Rigveda also, vak means cow. Okay, so that's the connection. So because he experimented with cow, it's called vaccination. And then suddenly it took time, method became popular. Something bad happened, but I'll come to that in a minute. Now this is written by, I won't tell the name, it doesn't matter. This is a well-known truth for those people who are aware of what happens. There is a persistent pattern in British, it says Britain, but it's true of Western Europe. Britain's scientific and industrial discoveries of the early 19th century. Once a milestone was reached, details of the steps leading to it were removed. Eastern antecedents of scientific discoveries were ignored or belittled, and modern science presented as a standalone without any prehistory. Okay? I won't tell you the name, I'll give you as a homework. Okay, it will come from a surprise source. Okay? Now remember this timeline. Against this, when Edward Jenner came up with his inoculation, this vaccination, Europe did not accept it. They resisted it. If you talk of Andhashraddha and we think it's Andhashraddha only here, hell no. Okay? They made these cartoons like this. For example, it says don't go for it. If you do it, suddenly the cows will start coming out of your nose and mouths and arms and everywhere. Okay, there was this whole resistance there. And look what happened. So same timeline, I'm going to put these guys here. Against this is written by European or British medical doctors. They found a documented evidence of Indian inoculation for smallpox as early as 15th century. Now that they're not saying it wasn't there before, but documented evidence of 15th century. Something very interesting, while India was treating smallpox in a most effective way, the Europeans were thinking of that as a skin condition. Because it was missed. How many doctors in the audience? Okay. Alright, so I have to be careful what I say. Because it was misdiagnosed, they thought of a wrong treatment. And actually while they're trying to treat the skin, the patient actually used to die. Okay, because they thought it's a condition of the skin and nothing to do with as a viral infection or anything like that. Now there were efforts, for example in 1731, note the dates, why the chronology matters, that is a small example of it. I do this work and people say, okay, that's all great, Ramayana, Mahabharata, so what? How does it matter? Okay, that's another lecture. But my point is, it matters, the chronology matters. That's what decides, how the things develop. So 1731, when Edward Jenner was not even born, there is Dr. Robert Holt. He was stationed in India and he wrote about the Indian method of inoculation and wrote about it and sent it to Western Europe. Why? He said, you are having this trouble, use this method, it's very effective, use it. But they were still not using it. There was another attempt, 1767. It is after the birth of Jenner, but it is before even he figured out vaccination. And this is an extremely detailed paper. This is Royal Society letters and whatnot. Dr. Holwell. He wrote a very detailed paper on the efficacy of Indian inoculation. How many of you understand Six Sigma? Like in my introduction, they mentioned Six Sigma. Have you heard Six Sigma? Okay. A very small defect. What Holwell wrote, he said the efficacy of an Indian method, he didn't use the word Six Sigma, it wasn't there, but it was better than a Six Sigma. What we know Six Sigma today, it was better than that. In fact, he said, our folks, by our folks he meant British folks settled in Kolkata area, he said not a single life was lost to smallpox, and thanks to the method of Banaras Brahmins of inoculation. That is what he writes in his paper. Okay? But look what happened. After Edward Jenner figured out the vaccination, and thanks to him, okay, it did have certain advantages over even Indian method. Okay? It did have certain advantages. The prescription was not required. You can have your vada pav, ice cream, whatever you want, The previous method, Indian method, have a lot of prescriptions. So that was gone. But in 1802, the East India Company, or they banned the Indian method of inoculation in the area of India where they had a control. Okay, if you are a business people, I will leave it to your imagination why they banned it. Okay. Now, what is funny is, to this day, this history exists, documented history exists. To this day, and I have papers all the way going from 1981 to 2012, to this day the denial of origin of inoculation continues by Western researchers. They will say, okay, these people make a big fuss thing, they claim something that's not true. In spite of this, and all the documentation that I shared with you is not by Indians. It is by non-Indians, mostly British. Okay. So that's my case study number 1. Okay, so very recent times. Sushruta and surgery and rhinoplasty. Have you heard the name Sushrut? Yes. Most of you? Good. In 1794, not far from here in Pune, two medical men, British medical men, observed an operation done on streets of Pune. A potter, a Marathi Kumbar, he performed an operation on a guy named Kosaji or Kawasji. Kawasji because the way British wrote it, that's how it sounds like a Kawasji. And he has lost his nose in a war between British and Tipu Sultan. Okay? And so Tipu Sultan, to terrorize the audience, terrorize the other side, he used to reward his folks to cut one arm and the nose and bring it to him, and he would reward them to terrorize the other side. And so this guy was a supply chain person. If you have a management school, bullock cart driver. He was a supply chain to British Army, and his nose was gone. And this potter in Pune fixed his nose. This was observed by British men. They sent the reports to UK, England, and it started a revolution in the nose operation in Western Europe. Now they were also doing operations, but they were not very successful. Actually, they were disasters. And I'll tell you what the difference was and where the innovation comes in. But they were so impressed with this, people first did not believe that the brown guy can teach them anything. Okay? So they were rejected. But some sincere people are there everywhere. Right? So they took on, he says, let's test, see if this is true. So when they started doing it, actually they found, and I'll explain the method in a minute. So essentially what happened is they would take a skin, of exact same shape. Nose is gone. So they put a wax mold here of a nose shape. Okay? And then take this flap, take this skin and put it on top of it. Then put the, all the herbs and oils and whatnot. And, in some days, one has a new nose, so to say. It's not a perfect nose. There is a wax inside, but as far as the appearance goes, it's a good one. So you cut the shape here and you turn it like this. The big deal was, you cut it, but you also did not cut it completely. You left some skin attached to your body. So what did it do? It left the skin living. Okay? So it did not dry. And so that was the great thing. They were so impressed, they called it Indian flap. Okay, the whole technique was called Indian flap. Many books were written on this, many people tried this. It was translated into German. That is the first time we get the word rhinoplastic, which turned into rhinoplasty. There was no word before that. Okay? Books were written, diagrams were drawn, many books in multiple languages. They use the word plastic surgery. In Marathi people will know chirne, bhaji chirne. Again, you see those words coming from it. So plastic surgery, that became surgery. Yeah? But immediately somebody cannot say surgery, we laugh at that guy. You don't know good English. Yeah? The words have twisted like this. Now they use the technique, but they started wondering, is this Sushruta guy real? Okay, I mean, is this some latest hodgepodge made by Indians somehow by permutation? And so Sir Hamilton, who was, I will not go into the great game, long story. If you go to YouTube, there are 10 parts, either in Marathi or English, on Sushruta, created by one Mitra Desai, myself, and Sanket Kulkarni. Me in America, Mitra Desai in Australia, Sanket Kulkarni in London. Okay, so you have to do a YouTube video, you have to go outside India, it seems. No, just kidding, okay? So there are 10 parts in Marathi, 10 parts in English. You can listen to that, lot of details. So I won't go through this story. But he found a document on the China-Russia border, and that document was in the Gupta Brahmi script. And when they translated finally, another guy, Hurley, he translated. And look at the dedication of these folks. Okay, Gupta Brahmi is not their mother tongue, Sanskrit is not their mother tongue, other Indian languages are not their mother tongue. They went through the pain to understand this and translate it. And when Hurley translated, he found it had all the names of Ayurvedic doctors that you hear. I mean, Sushruta, okay, you can see the name, Shambhava, Bhela, Parashara, Harita, Atreya. In that document in Gupta Brahmi script, found on the border of India and China. So to them, he said, hey, these are real. The name that Sushruta we hear just from people is real. Now what I just showed you, that operation, nose operation and a flip, the Indian flap or Indian flip, that is given here. Now if you don't understand Sanskrit, you might recite those and again put a flower and do the namaskar. Okay? This, I'm not going to go through it just to save time. But this gives you step-by-step instructions how to do that nose operation. Step by step, all the way to the end. There is one slight difference. This is from Sushrut Samhita. Sushrut Samhita refers to taking this cut from the cheek, okay, and put it on the nose. Now the potter in Pune had already done the improvisation. Instead of taking from the chip, he went from the top. Can anyone tell me what's the advantage of doing this versus this? Gravity. Okay, this is sort of against the gravity, it may kind of come up. This is very natural for it to fall down. Okay, so not much effort involved in pulling it or keeping it in place and so on. So that's improvisation. So in an Indian tradition, not just medicinal tradition, you will find if you can do something better, go do it. There is no restriction in terms of just because it is said in a certain text, it is like this, you have to do it like this. No restrictions of this kind. This is what it does. Now what is interesting is this, just like I told you the story of inoculation. This is almost 100 years after the British medical men noticed the operation on the streets of Pune. That was 1794. We are now looking at 1895, and this is what they write in the British Medical Journal. Okay? If you are impressed with the peer-reviewed papers and all of that, watch this language. Can you read it? To criticize the subject matter of this work, this is the translation of the Bauer manuscript that was translated into English. In detail would be labor vested. Its interest is rather antiquarian than scientific. The baseball came from cricket. Okay, sort of as an origin. But if you don't understand it, then you're going to think it's like useless, or it's fanciful, it's erroneous, and so on. Okay? But instead of blaming yourself that maybe you did not understand it, you blame the other side. Okay? But there were some very genuine souls, like for example, Carpew. And he said, let me find out. So he actually sent his messenger, so to say. He wanted to find out the truth of this method from India. And actually he found a lot of evidence for it. For example, Lucas, he contacted Lucas, an English surgeon, and he said he verified that the Hindu surgeons are practicing this from time immemorial. And there's another guy, he actually said that he learned the method from Indian surgeons, and he has applied it very successfully. So that was sort of a validation that yes, it was an Indian method. So in spite of all of this, they were doubting it after 100 years, successfully using it for 100 years. Okay, so Shruta Samhita has lots of instruments. I'm not going to go there. I just showed you a slice there. Now the timing of Sushruta. If you go to Wikipedia, everyone knows Wikipedia? Yeah. And type Sushruta, you are going to get 600 BC. Recently, one Indian researcher, well-known Indian researcher, when Columbia University recently accepted, when I say recently, maybe a year ago, and they said, yeah, we accept that Sushruta was there in 600 BC. And he was very ecstatic. He said, wow, finally Columbia accepted that Sushruta is 600 BC. Okay, this is on a Twitter, those of you on a Twitter and Facebook. So I responded to that. I said, what nonsense. Okay, so that person blocked me. And my point was, why first thing Columbia has to accept and we have to get elated? And why we should be excited about a wrong in Columbia accepting wrong information? Okay. Then another professor of business in Australia, of Indian origin, he sent me a picture. In Melbourne, they have a statue of Sushruta, and below that it's written 600 BCE. And he said he's going to write to the university after my research, and I'll share that research that I shared at Oxford in just a minute with you. And he said, I'm going to ask them to change the dating. I'll show you that I have shown that Sushruta is at least 6000 BC or older. Okay? So I said, please write that later. I like that. But also do one more thing. Now, I said this is as a humorously or jokingly. I said at night, go with a paint and a brush to that statue. And just after 600, put another 0. Right? The BC is there, 600 is there, 6000 BC. Okay? I'll show you what it is. But that's what people believe. Now, how did they come up at 600 BC? We always have to go to the root of it. You cannot just take Shabda, somebody's word, some article in a newspaper, some article in a research paper, some article in a book. Just because I say something Mahabharata in 7,000 years ago in a book, you should accept it. You said, what this guy is saying? I want to verify. So how did this method come? I don't have a time to go through it. It's an extremely disastrous, very erroneous method that was used by Hanle. Now, very important, I use the name because it's very important to separate what any individual did good and what they did wrong. You don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater. Hanle did amazing job of translating Sushruta Samhita in English. He also did an amazing job of taking that Bauer manuscript, translated into English. Okay, that's good. But when it came to dating, he made series of mistakes. That was like more than 100 years ago, and we are still stuck with them in Wikipedia. And if you want to try changing that in Wikipedia, be my guest. Try changing it. As soon as we change it, somebody else will come and put it back to 600 BC. Then you have to start wondering why that happens. This is as a homework. I want to give this as a homework to everyone. Why that happens. Okay? If somebody put my date also, 5561 BC and Nilesh on the Wikipedia, and somebody took a picture and sent it to me. I said, okay, I'll go and see what they have written. I went after 15 days and that was gone. Now it is back, and it's not me who put it back, somebody must have put it back. What I want to show you is there is something more than just the pure truth that is going on. Okay? So quickly show you Mahabharata 5561 BCE. What Hanle did is, he put Sushruta Samhita in 500 CE, meaning 1500 years ago, and he put Sushruta around 500 BCE. I will not go through the method that he used, extremely erroneous method. Again, if you go back to YouTube, 10 parts, you will see that. If we can correct Hanle's background knowledge and still use his erroneous method, watch carefully, even then Sushruta's date will go back. For example, if we do that, Hanle revised, I said, if we do that, so it's his erroneous method, but just give the correct his background knowledge, because he used Shatapat Brahman and so on. Then also Sushruta will go back to 3000 BC. You follow what I'm saying? Just for that you will go to 3000 BC. If you go to Sushruta Samhita itself, there are verses, there are shlokas which can be analyzed in an astronomy fashion, and that will tell you, I will not go through the details, again it's in the YouTube video, it will tell you that Sushruta Samhita, the way it is available to us, was definitely written in 2000 BC to up to 5000 BC. We cannot tell exactly when, somewhere during this time. But we are not done. What we showed, this is Sanket Kulkarni and myself, is if you look at Sushruta Samhita references, like who is the son of who and all those disciplic succession is given. Okay, so Divodasa. Sushruta tradition, comes in a tradition of a Divodasa. One named Divodas in Kashi. If you go to Garuda Puran, you find that same Divodas, Sushruta is referred there as a Divodasatmaja. Okay, Atmaja, his son or somebody very close to him. And this Divodasa tradition, who are some other key individuals? It says Vishwamitra, Devarata, Madhuchanda. Now there are many other names. I'm just, for simplicity, I'm taking those three. Vishwamitra, there is no one Vishwamitra. There are many Vishwamitra. This is like an epithet, So like a oak, there is not just one oak. Actually, somebody else will immediately object. There are other oaks here, for example. She said, what do you think? There are many, same thing, many Vishwamitra. And then if you go to Mahabharata, which I have dated to more than 7,000 years, I have to keep on brainwashing you, before you forget. So Mahabharata actually has a long list of disciplic succession in the context of medicine life. So the context is very, very clear. The name of Sushruta is mentioned, and the name of these Vishwamitra, Devarata, Madhuchanda, and many others. Do you follow what I'm saying? This is a different type of triangulation. I started with Sushruta Samhita, the names of the rishis or medical doctors in there. I went to Garuda Purana to see the common linkage. I also go on the other side to Mahabharata, and basically those names are there. And there are many individuals after Sushruta in Mahabharata. So I'm not saying Sushruta was at the time of Mahabharata. He would be long time before, but I'm saying definitely the name was well known at the time of Mahabharata. So if Mahabharata is 7,500 years ago, Sushruta has to be before that. Okay? Alright, so that's the summary of it. Quickly, last one. Okay, I'm being good on time. Kumbhakarna and a Klein-Levin syndrome. Sometime around 2006 or so, I'm a chemical engineer, as I said. I was working with one of my business partner who is French, Michel Varis. So aromatherapy, if you have heard the word aromatherapy, the credit is given to French, like they discovered it or they developed it. And so what we're trying to do is think of this as a marriage of aromatherapy with Ayurveda. Okay? So people in Maharashtra area will definitely know, but India also, you know something called Kailash Jivan? Just to give you an idea, I was thinking of something like this. But the Kailash Jivan, it will have that camphor smell and some other smells, The Indians don't mind. They say if it works, we will use it. Americans don't think like that. It has to smell nice too. Okay? And it cannot be oily and so on and so forth. So something on that line of Kailash Jivan, and with the aromatherapy, we were working on a product. Actually, we built 32 products, and I won't go into that. But while I was reading about it and why we were developing that product, and I'm just giving you the story to tell you, what one thing can lead to another. Kumbhakarna was not on my mind, That time, me, myself, and then Michelle, my business friend, we both were traveling 100%, around the globe. He was in a different company. And so, if you travel a lot, the problem of a jet lag. Like you don't know when is night, when is day, you feel groggy, you are in the executive meetings and you don't know what people are saying, you don't know what you are saying. So we were trying to think of some things. Kailash Jivan I used to use and I found that to be effective, besides taking a cold water shower, and doing a yoga. So we were trying to develop something, we developed this different combination, and in this context, I was reading everything about sleep. Okay. Now this is I'm giving a context. Like if you don't have the background knowledge, you cannot make discoveries. You have to have an immense background knowledge, Vyaptijna. So what you have to develop a habit is to read everything you find. Not for any particular reason, and then it comes out contextual. So I'll tell you the story. So as I was reading this book, one book on sleep, and there was a case study of a 14-year-old boy, 14-year-old. And the whole description was there, and as I was reading, I said, it was from Israel, this boy. I said, this looks very familiar. This sounds very familiar, I said, who is that? Who is that? And suddenly, the name that popped up in front of me is Kumbhakarna. Now what I'm saying is, if you're doing a sleep research and if you want to connect, you must have read Valmiki Ramayana too. Okay? Or at least familiar with Ramayana. So that's what I mean by Vyaptijna. You have to read and you don't know where it will come out handy. So suddenly it says, oh, that sounds very similar to Kumbhakarna. The two main things. If you think of Kumbhakarna, what are the two things that immediately comes to your mind? He sleeps a lot and eats a lot. And you say, lucky guy. Right? So those two things were known, but in the case study of that 14-year-old boy, there were many other things which I also did not know if they existed in case of Kumbhakarna. So this is how you build a theory. So, and that disease that was mentioned was known as the Klein-Levin syndrome. The name is after two scientists, two medical men, who documented in last 100 years. So I said, if Kumbhakarna's condition is like Klein-Levin syndrome, that's how you build the theory, not the way Aryan invasion theory was built. If you want to build the theory, I said, if it is a Klein-Levin syndrome, I don't know that, then what should happen? In the evidence, I should find all the evidence that I find for this boy, or a typical evidence for Klein-Levin syndrome, some descriptions of it in case of Kumbhakarna. Would you agree? Okay. And in science, there is no final word. It's always about more likely versus less likely. Are you 100% sure this happened? No. In science, you don't have to ever say that. When people ask Newton, he said there is a force between the two bodies, two inertial bodies. And people used to ask him. They said, okay, that's fine. Where is the rope that connects those two bodies so that they can apply the force? And do you remember what Newton said? His famous quote, hypothesis non fingo. I don't pretend to know the answer, but my theory works. Okay, so you may not know the answer to everything, but if the theory works. So I put a theory like this. Can I find these additional descriptions of Kumbhakarna that are explained for the Klein-Levin syndrome that I don't know, even many of you don't know, are they there? Okay. How long Kumbhakarna used to sleep?
6 months.
How long he used to be awake?
6 months.
Now there will be digression. Some people will say 6 months, some people will say 1 day, and so on. Because those various descriptions are there in the Valmiki Ramayana. Sometimes it says 1 day, other times it says 6 months, and so on. I'll give you some more surprises there. This is a Klein-Levin syndrome. The key things are eating a lot and sleeping a lot, almost sleeping all the time. Okay, and when you wake up, you eat a lot. Okay, that's the diagnosis. Here is a quick table. Take a minute and read it. I don't know if you can read. I'll read for you. So the first two are very obvious. Okay, eating a lot and sleeping a lot. Hypersomnia, excessive sleepiness. Would you agree that in case of Kumbhakarna, it's an excellent match based on the description that you have read? Absolutely. Very hard for him to wake up and so on and so forth. Hyperphagia is excessive abnormal hunger, eating without discrimination. Okay, start reading Valmiki Ramayana. Like first he ate, as soon as he woke up, even before he woke up, they kept all the food ready. Why? Because they knew, I'm going into the patient management. The first one, inoculation, I told you, the prevention. The nose is a cure. Like if you lost the nose, no worries. Okay, we can have a wax nose. Okay, and the last one is a patient management. I'll come to that. So hypersomnia, hyperphagia is known. Hypersexuality is not known. I mean, because that's what this 14-year boy was behaving, and then I have gone through 300 plus case studies, and essentially is most of 50% of the time it is like that. It was not known. But if you read Valmiki Ramayana, Ravan is describing Kumbhakarna's behavior when he's sleeping, and when he's sleeping, he's not sleeping 24 hours. Like he will sleep most of the time, but he will get up to wake up, eat, do his basic bodily functions and go back to bed. You can go to YouTube, type Klein-Levin syndrome, and you can see current patients. The documentary is made on current patients and what they go through. But hypersexuality, Ravana describes his behavior as kamo pahata chetana. Someone who is like kind of influenced by a kama. Or he describes Kumbhakarna's behavior as a gramya sukhe. Someone who is full busy with this. Or you hear the descriptions in his young age or before that, he used to chase the wives of other men, other sages, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you hear these descriptions in a subtle way, not so subtle, but they are there. So that's hypersexuality. Irritability, cognitive disturbance, that's not very easy to measure even now. But you can see that. If you read Valmiki Ramayana, you will say, he's very irritated when he gets up. But then you will say, you also guys are irritated, when your parents wake you up. Okay, so not very different, so I'll skip that. What is interesting is the episode duration. Now, I started in 2006. By 2009, I had most of my research done. But the longest case of Klein-Levin syndrome I had in 2009, that fellow slept for 3 months. Okay? And we being the skeptics, we say, wow, but Kumbhakarna was 6 months. No, 3 months is possible, but what about 6 months? I said, I will patiently wait. Have you gone fishing? Like we put the rod and patiently wait? Yeah. I said, I will patiently wait. And it was worth waiting. In 2015, the same group, researcher groups from France, they published another paper, and now they have a case for 12 months. Okay? By the way, I have written to all these sleep experts from France, Harvard, Stanford. There used to be a center at Johns Hopkins. It's no longer there. Okay. What is interesting is, I'll tell you the context, for an Indian context also. All these sleep researchers, when I wrote the paper, I sent it to them. I have not even published it, I just don't have a time to publish in a peer review. I just write books or give talks like this. I'm not very great fan of peer reviewed papers anyways, I also call that peer reviewed nonsense. Okay. I give a lecture on that too, by the way. Okay. But what happened is, I sent it to these all sleep experts and they highly appreciated it. But to my surprise, when I sent to one Indian conference like in Delhi, medical related thing like Ayurveda or Indian medical sciences, I don't have the reports there, but I can show you. Okay, nothing wrong. They rejected the paper. So all sleep experts accepted, they rejected the paper. Okay, one reason or the another, it's not like this. Another paper, another conference of a sort of an Indian group in America, they said, and I'm not saying this is a sour grapes or anything, just for fun, like how biased we can be and how we cannot critically think sometimes. And that person said, this is such a rubbish that not only it should not be published, the person should not be allowed to even present. Okay. Now this was a Indian professor of Indian origin, a well-decorated professor in America. Okay. So that's what sometimes our biases would come in, whereas these people say, this is fascinating, I never heard this before, and I communicate with them. So that particular lady from France, Arnaud, last name, she sent me that paper as soon as she had a case of 12 months because I said I'm looking for a case study, case where there is a 6 months. Then I got my Kumbhakarna. Okay, so she sent me the paper personally. Okay, all right. Now episode duration is 0 to 12 months. If you go to Valmiki Ramayana, do you know what it says? Actually, there is a verse. We heard 6 months. That is correct. That description is also there. But actually, when Ravana is describing the condition of Kumbhakarna, he says sometimes this guy, my brother, sleeps for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. How many of you know this verse? Okay, time to read Valmiki Ramayana. I mean, when you start reading in the context, you say, wow, I mean, I just said perfect. Because that's what I already knew, that was the situation of client 11 patients. Because they do have a variable sleep, and actually with time that can change also. So that is the condition of Kumbhakarna at that time. If you look at the interval between episodes 0 to 72 months, we don't have unfortunately much information in Valmiki Ramayana, but whatever little we have, it doesn't contradict with that 0 to 72 months. Because sometimes we have a 1 day, sometimes we have a 1 month in between. And I have shown that at least one time it was 9 days, based on Valmiki Ramayana evidence. Behavior, I'll skip that. Onset of KLS, Valmiki Ramayana also gives a directional idea that when he was young, during that 15 to 44 when it started, he says, I'm feeling sleepy. He goes to Ravana. He says, please make arrangements for me. And I'm going to come to the patient management in a minute. Causes of KLS and KLS patient management. Causes of KLS, what happens? If you truly don't know, that medical doctors will tell us, if you truly don't know what is the cause of it, absolutely don't know, what are you guys going to do? Still, if the patient is ill, what will you say? What would be your recommendation? We don't know the cause, we don't know how to treat it, I mean, cure it. What would you say? Symptomatic, make that patient comfortable, okay? Just pain, reduce the pain, manage the pain and so on. If you look at the current patient treatment for KLS disease, because there is no known cure, there is no known causes, there are a lot of speculations. And talking of speculations, I'll tell you, if the true cause is not known, automatically there are many theories. Would you agree? Yeah. That happens in modern, people say no, that happens in only Indian literature. No. In modern science, if you go to quantum mechanics, again that's some subject I have worked on for many years. Right now, quantum mechanics has some 14 plus theories, 14, 17 independent theories, conflicting, contradictory theories. Quantum mechanics is very successful. That's how your smartphone works. That's how you can outsource your smartness to the phone. Okay? The quantum mechanics works. But why it works? The Karya Karana Bhav is not known. So there are multiple theories. You see the same thing in a case of Kumbhakarna. Right inside Valmiki Ramayana, you have 3 different theories for how the Kumbhakarna's condition came into being. I'll not go into the details. One time it is a Saraswati giving a curse. Another, Ravana simply says Brahma Rakshasa, like Brahma Shapa. It's like a shap of a destiny, curse of a destiny, that's why it has happened. And another place, it is the, the twisting and turning, sleep and Nidrasan, I mean all those things. There are 3 different theories in Valmiki Ramayana by 3 different individuals trying to explain what caused Kumbhakarna's condition. So that's about, when you don't know the true cure, which is still true to this day. After 14,000 years, we still have the same situation. Some cases we make improvements, other cases we don't make any improvements. Now last one, the patient management. Current condition, current recommendations for patient are simply this. Find a dark room, make it very comfortable, air conditioned, etc. When the person, when he or she wakes up, keep the food ready. Okay, don't argue with the person. Okay, just give the food and so on. And if you read Valmiki Ramayana, those were the exactly same things that were done to him. In fact, when he was feeling sleepy and he asked Ravana to build a sleeping chamber, it was built underground, it says, Guha. Okay, and Valmiki Ramayana descriptions tells you that like pleasant perfumes were circulated through his chamber. Okay, now sometime our people immediately, where was the compressor? What brand? I don't know what compressor they use or if they use the compressor, but Valmiki Ramayana tells you that perfumes were circulated. Why? Because of irritability. Okay, to manage the irritability. That is the same recommendation even in today's times. Keep the room clean, put a perfume, put a flower for the KLS patient. Okay. And if you don't believe that quantum mechanics has those many theories, Okay, you don't have to read, you may not be able to read, but those many theories, every row is a different theory for quantum mechanics. Quickly, last slide. How do we do this? How do we go find new things? Okay, out of those 5 things of scientific method that I described, okay, I have taken 2. The vertical axis is the axis of evidence. It goes from a selective evidence to all the evidence, all the relevant evidence. The selective evidence is how most of our India's history is written, that you get in a textbook, using a very selective evidence. So they already have an agenda, what they want to tell you. Now some evidence, and here is the truth. That's how the selective evidence is used. Okay, that's at the bottom. Very undesired, but that's how it is done. At the top, you want to use all the evidence. The horizontal axis is the axis of testability. That separates the science from metaphysics. Okay, on this side, if it is testable, objectively testable, which means if I describe you a certain process, certain outcome, if you follow that, you should be able to get the same answer. Otherwise, it's not objectively testable. Okay, so this one we get the scientific. Now, another myth we have, opposite of scientific, many times is not unscientific or non-scientific. It is metaphysical. What does metaphysical mean? Atarkya. It's beyond your reach, beyond the reach of science. Now, does that mean we should blindly accept it? No. That's why we have something called Chatushkoti logic, if you have heard about it. This is my slide, okay? Basic Chatushkoti logic. So, binary logic is yes or no, pass or fail, true or false. Chatushkoti logic is true and false, neither true nor false, true and false. Okay? So that's Chatushkoti logic. I'm going to quickly walk you through 3 Samadhipat Sutra of Patanjali and 1 verse of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm going to stop. If you start in the top right hand corner, how to get to the truth, how to get to true knowledge. Samadhipat number 7, Sutra number 7, Patanjali says, Pratyaksha Anumana Agama Pramanani. Right? Pratyaksha Anumana Agama, that triangulation that I showed, is the way to know the truth. If you don't do that, what happens is just below. Viparyayo, the next sutra, Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtham. If you don't follow that method, Viparyayo, opposite of that, will lead to Mithya Jnana, Atadrupa, like seeing literally how you look in the mirror versus the twisted mirror. Have you seen those funny mirrors? Yes. Okay, that's like not seeing the truth, not seeing what you want to see, unless it shows you thin. Right? Okay. That's Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtham. That's below here. If you go to that last corner, and many people are stuck here. Like when we talk of Pushpa Viman, when we talk of certain method, nose plan, whatever it is. Sometimes there are many things that we cannot scientifically test. So we cannot say that they are true, and we cannot say that they are false. Okay? But instead of that, people just go there and they say, because there is no evidence, therefore it must be false. It's a problem of logic. Okay? They should enroll themselves into science of logic or Nyaya Darshana. Okay? So what is that verse? Shabda Jnananu. This is Patanjali Samadhipat number 9. Shabda Jnan, they come in a sequence. Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpa. Like we think, Marathi मला असं वाटतं, त्यांना असं वाटतं, यांच्या मताप्रमाणे, according to his opinion. In science, there is no room for opinions. None. There is a room for opinion to build the theory. You can speculate, that's fine. But once you build a theory, you have to go through the method. You have to find the evidence, you have to objectively test it, draw the inference, and ask everyone else to critique your theory. Say, please come and destroy my theory. Destroymytheory.com or something. Put your theory there. Say, please come and destroy my theory. You should be happy if somebody destroys it. Sir Karl Popper says, good tests kill bad theories. We survive to guess again. We can put a new theory. Okay? So that's the last one. We should not want to fall into that trap. And then a Shraddha. And you will hear that in the Indian context. अरे मुझे उसमें कुछ लेना नहीं है, but मुझे श्रद्धा है. I have this Shraddha. That's enough. No Indian literature will say Shraddha is enough. If you read Dyaneshwari, Shraddha Manitaliyasati patejo nahiye kiriti. Just because you say Shraddha, it's not done. It's just a beginning. Okay? And if you go to Bhagavad Gita, it says what? There are Shraddha of different kinds. त्रिविधो भवति श्रद्धा देहिनांसा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति ताम शृणु. There is a sattva, sattvic shraddha, tamasi shraddha, rajasi shraddha. So with that shraddha you can believe in something that's not true. Okay, so what is the method? The method of science. Okay, in fact science, we can talk of dharma as a science as religion, but that's another talk again. I would like to stop here, and depending on the time, I can take few questions, comments, objections, everything is welcome. Thank you so much. And just at the time I will show you, I said 15 minutes, whatever I said to 1 hour. In 15 seconds, there will be 1 hour.
Any questions?
Okay, I must have explained everything well.
Just why you do all this research? You know that it's a chapter of another meeting. Can you explain it? Why that dating is so much important?
Why dating is so much important? I mean, I can give a whole lecture, but that's another lecture. But usually instead of giving a lecture, I like to give this as a homework typically. I say, I've talked about, I can do all the work. I must leave something for you. Okay? So you have to think why it matters. Go around the world and see, try to find out if people care for their chronology. They do. Okay? You can just go to a Google and just type the quotes on history. Why history matters. On Quora or whatnot, you'll get the answer. One simple answer I want to give just for a time is Europeans, I don't get the name right now. He has said, if you want to destroy the confidence of another culture, if you want to make them slave, destroy and twist their history, and you got them by their tail. That's the importance of a proper history. That's the importance of proper chronology. And that's what matters for even understanding. Okay? In Western science, or Western, not science, Western viewpoint, there is something called linear arrow of time. How many of you have heard that? Linear arrow of time. Oh, do you know what it means? The linear arrow of time makes that under that assumption, what we are right now are the most sophisticated human beings that the earth has ever seen. As you go back, we become backward. But if you study history, you'll find that's not true. Not just history of India. If you read the history of world, you will find that there were times when our knowledge of the earth sciences was much more sophisticated than it is now. Okay, so civilization goes through ups and downs. So that's a non-linear arrow of time. Cycles of civilization versus linear arrow of time. So to get rid of that myth of linear arrow of time, also we need a history. If you look at social norms in say Ramayana versus Mahabharata, you will find Ramayana was much advanced in the sense of, they were ahead of our times in some ways. We will look backward if you look at some of the statements of Ramayana or even Rigveda. We will look like a very conservative and backward. So it goes through that cycle of civilization. So that's the importance of knowing the accurate chronology.
What is your opinion on Pushpak Viman and other technology?
Okay. What is my opinion on Pushpak Viman and technology? I showed you on that slide. So for example, right now we have no evidence in support of Pushpak Viman. There is, I'll come back to that, but no physical evidence. And we don't have any physical evidence or anything that will disprove it also. Okay. Now, you might have heard what Dr. Dyanasadhana, he will say, I haven't seen a fuselage and therefore it doesn't exist or something of that effect. Well, he has not seen fuselage, that's correct. But therefore it doesn't exist is a problem of Tarka Shastra. You understand? We cannot comment on it. Atarkya. There are many things that we cannot comment on. Is there a life after death? It's a matter of Shraddha. So that's when they said some cases, what do we do? That is like this. But you ask me what is my opinion. Okay. Shankaracharya has said, Jnanam na Purusha Tantram kintu Vastu Tantram. The knowledge doesn't depend on anybody's opinions, and that includes me. It depends on the actual Vastu. If you want to know about Mahabharata, read Mahabharata. If you want to know about Ramayana, read Valmiki Ramayana. Make your own mind, and in subjective conviction, you can believe in anything you want. as long as it doesn't bother other people. In subjective conviction, you can believe in anything. But when you want to communicate that to others, when you want other people to agree to your viewpoint, it has to have objective reality. I mean, there cannot be a better explanation than what Shankaracharya said. Jnanam na purushatantram kintu vastutantram. Only that thing can tell you about itself. Doesn't matter who that person is, what his opinion, what is his title, what is his accolades. Doesn't matter. The opinion only helps in creating theories, creating conjectures, guesses. That's fine, but no opinion.
When you are talking about the ancient medicinal, how do you? What is your opinion of birth of 100 Kauravas? What that science was in?
Okay. Did you hear me? Just last 30 seconds. My opinion doesn't count. See, again, if you want to research on this parthenogenesis, whatever, all that, genetic test tube babies, see, what happens is, if you just get excited, oh, so it was all there. See, that's how my journey started. Growing up, I was told that everything is there in the Vedas. This was in Gudai, between Chipur and Guwahati. So I said, okay, can somebody show me? We didn't have a Veda in our village. Okay, everything is there in the Vedas, everything is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, somebody said everything is there in Bhagavad Gita, so I said, okay, we have a Bhagavad Gita, So I started there. But you have to start. There is no, see, where it helps is when somebody does, each person does something, For example, just as a digression, but very relevant to this, I get like close to 100 to 200 emails every week. Okay, and unless that person has done something, okay, I get my 15-year-old daughter to delete them. Now you said, what an arrogant guy we are listening to. No. I know from experience that almost 100% of those emails are my time wasters. And this is the experience of many. Unless that person has done something, you have to get that credibility. Because what happens, you can ask, this is why we are asking question and answer, and this is what the education is. But unless you do something, people don't realize how difficult it is to work on something. Just like I said that one verse took me 15 years, and so on and so forth. Or the kind of sacrifices you have to make. Like very recently, my nephew, after 10th grade or 12th grade, because now I work in history, so he was like fascinated, oh, you left chemical engineering and working in history. This must be the new hot trend. Yeah. So he wrote to me saying, hey, is there how's the scope in history? So I just wrote one line, I said, do science. Okay. But I also have a story. Have you heard the name Sir Richard Branson? Yeah, the Virgin brand, the Virgin airline, Virgin this, Virgin that. He has given a nice recipe how to become a millionaire. Do you want to know how to become a millionaire? How many of you are interested? Nobody? Everybody is interested. He said, no, I'm just telling how to get into this history business, like Indian history especially. If I do the non-Indian history, I can become a billionaire also. Okay, but Indian history, this is at least how it works. Sir Richard Branson has said, if you want to become a millionaire, you have to begin with $1 billion. And then he said, then enter airline business. You become a millionaire. Okay. So that's the kind of nature it is, and people have to do this on their own time. Usually the academic support, the institutional support is not there. So you have to get excited. So what happens is the lives of few people who are doing it are very interesting, what you have to go through. So back to your answer, I didn't want to avoid your question. So like how the birth of Pandavas, the birth of Kauravas, very interesting, right? What Sir Karl Popper has said is that science begins with myths. Now I don't want to call Mahabharata or Ramayana myth. If there is another second message I want you to take away today, besides that pada of 7, Sati ke saath 7, 14, 7 myths, 1,000 by the way, 7,000, 14,000. Is this that no, these are not myths, so we should stop. People say, oh, our mythology, no, nonsense, you don't understand. Our not mythology, at least say, if you're saying in English, you say ancient Indian narratives. They're narratives. Some of it could be right, some of it could be wrong, some of it could be false, some of it could be true, like a Chatushkoti logic, but they're not myths. But having said that, Sir Karl Popper says about the whole world literature, or assumptions in people's mind, like Greek people, Pythagoras and whatnot. He says the science begins with myths and the criticism of myths. So if we hear the story of Kaurava's birth, so that's where the beginning is, but then we have to do the criticism of myths, which means research. So Adhyaya Pravachanesha, so self-study of what that myth is, and then detailed study, Pravachanesha, and then exposition, and then of course telling people, then we figure it out. ते टायटल्स आहे ते अष्टकरण शिफ्टी आहे त्याचं, म्हणजे 8 आर्म्स म्हणा, 8 फोल्ड मेथड म्हणा, त्याचं सुद्धा काय माहितीये का, हे मला सॉरी त्यांनी मराठीत विचारलं, मी मराठीत गेलो. So Ashtakran Shifti, I think it was the name there. Now I can tell you the story. See, for example, I worked in sales and marketing and corporate training for a long time. If you just give this, then people say, oh, whatever, this guy put a triangle. I learned that you always, just like a brand name, you have to give a name. So that Ashtakran Shifti is given by me, by the way. Okay? And trademark. To make it feel important, I put a TM next to it. Then people buy that, I mean, people invest into it. For example, I've been very highly influenced by works of Vinoba Bhave. And what I find is, how many of you have read books of Vinoba Bhave? Raise your hand. Just one person here, okay? And I'm sure there are two and few. Do you know why you have not read? Because those books are extremely inexpensive. 20 rupees, 50 rupees, 6 rupees, 20 rupees. I was at the birthplace of Vinoba Bhave, Kabode, near Pen, and I went there and spent some time. And jokingly, but I really mean it, I said, take that 60 rupees and just like that 600 BC to 6,000, I said, turn that into 600 rupees, turn that into 6,000 rupees, and then people will buy it. Actually, its worth cannot be put in rupees or dollars. Okay, it is that much worth. If there's another third message I want you to take, start reading books of Vinoba Bhave. Doesn't matter which one, start somewhere. And it's not for, Vinoba Bhave, the guy with the beard, something like this. No, start reading. The Vijnana Buddhi that I talked about, the Tarka Shastra that I talked about, these 5 methods, the 5 steps that I talked about, everything you will find in these books. Bhakti, last point. Nobody asked the question. But, related to that, we'll talk about the Bhakti. Like, Bhakti means now what? Jai, 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 something like this. And it ends. No, it doesn't. If you go to Bhagavad Puran, there's a dialogue between Krishna and Uddhava. Uddhav Gita. And see, Krishna is saying, after you become a bhakta, what to do? Uddhava is asking that. Okay? So now he says, Jnanam, Vishuddham, Vipulam, Yathaitat. After that, you have to acquire Vipul, unlimited, Vishuddha, very pure knowledge. हम बोलते कि नहीं भाई मेरा तो श्रद्धा है और कुछ नहीं करने वाला. Okay, that is there. Or Krishna, while accepting some claim, doesn't matter, like in a scientific fashion. Bhagavad में आपसे जो scientific science in Bhagavad, he says, we are talking here triangulation in science. Krishna is demanding and insisting quadrangulation. He says, Shruti Pratyaksham Aitiyam Anumanam Chatushtayam. Shruti Pratyaksham Aitiyam Anumanam Chatushtayam Pramaneshu Anavasthanat Vikalpat Savirajyate. If you don't do the quadrangulation of these 4 things before accepting something, it will lead to confusion, it will lead to delusion. Vikalpat Savirajyate. How scientific is that? How scientific? When you want to argue something, well, I don't think your Pushpak Viman exists, and somebody is saying it exists or something like this, the both parties may be at fault. But the point is, Dyanasadhana tells you, unless you want to object to something, or if you want to object to something and you don't have your own original position, but you are just objecting, no, but I don't agree with it, you are doing Vitanda. That's unacceptable. Swapratipaksha Sthapana, no Vitanda. Okay? And Drishtanta. That is like very easy way to explain people. Like if I tell you a story of Kumbhakarna, quickly you understand, instead of very, verses from Charaka Samhita or Sushrut Samhita, or actually reading them. What does it say? Laukika Parikshakanam Yasmin Arte Buddhi Samyam Sadrishtanta. Like in exams, like you remember all silver teacups, like how we remember these mnemonics and whatnot. Some simple ways to remember things, but that's remembering science. Laukika Parikshakanam Yasmin Arte Buddhi Samyam Sadrishtanta means you find that thing, something very funny, easy story, whatever it is. That's why we have stories in our narrations. That takes the common audience and experts, everyone on the same page. That is Drishtanta. Any other questions? So we can stop depending on. Yeah. No, so as I said, there are many things. Anyone from pharmaceutical industry? Nobody? You are from pharmaceutical industry. Like pharmaceutical industry, for example, for most part, I work with pharmaceutical industry as a consultant too. And so I have to tell them the tricks of the trade. Most part, they are busy inventing the names for the disease, they are finding the cure. Okay? So there are many attempts to find the medicines, but nothing that is effective to this day. Nothing that is effective. Book, okay. And so I have published 3 books. Okay, so you might have heard different numbers. The first one is 2011. When did the Mahabharata war happen? The history of Arundhati. In 2014, the historic Ram. And the subtitle is Indian Civilization at the End of Pleistocene. Pleistocene meaning before 10,000 BC. Okay, so anyone who is stuck 6,000 BC and afterwards, time to arise, awake, uttishta jagrata prapya vara nibodhata. So like this. And then the third book is Bhishma Nirvana. The second book, the historic Ram, or also its Indian title is 12,209 BC. Do you know why? So that you won't forget. 12,209 BC. What else is there to remember? If you want to write me an email, it's nilesh.5561bce@gmail.com. Okay, so you can't forget that either. So the second book, it is also being translated. In fact, the work is complete in Marathi. Okay, and it will be available sometime in June. And it so as it happens, we have the person who translated it. If you can stand for a minute, Alka Satish. And she is also busy translating other books. Okay, other books including my future books. Okay, so I don't know if she's translating ahead of me. You know. Okay, so thank you. Any other questions?
Is there any cure for murka?
Is there any
cure for murka? Murkata bolte.
Murkata bolte usko. There is a cure. Is there? That's an easy one to do. Is there a cure for murkata, like foolishness or something like this? Okay. Everyone ready? Take notes. Start reading Das Bodh. Okay. First thing, I mean, see, Einstein has said this. He said if you have a 1 hour total time, you should spend 45-50 minutes in defining the problem and the remaining 10 minutes in solving it. Okay? So some of the description, if you have read Das Bodh, but you know, for example, very relevant to my work, my critics. You know, so many people don't understand Marathi on a global scene, but I still quote them, you know, so they say, what is he saying? I can translate whatever I want. No, I don't need to. Akshare galuni vachi, kate ghali padarichi, nigana kari pustakachi, to yek murka. And other one, many people don't read the book. Actually, I had an open debate. I mean, you see that on the YouTube in Bangalore. The person has never read my book. He says, I don't agree with 5561 BC, I don't agree with Nilesh. Finally, my wife asked, she was going to come here, she's in Mumbai right now, Delhi. She said, have you read the book? I mean, I argued with him for 1 hour. The assumption is he would have read my book, right? No, he hasn't. He said, no, I have not read it. But no, I don't agree. Samula grantha pailya vina, ugas thevi jo dushana, guna sangata avaguna, pahe to yeta, padata murkha, not murkha. Promotion. Learned food. Or even when I go to the conferences, people will say, oh, but he's doing it for 50 years. That kind of research, you know. Somebody just by the sheer age or amount of time somebody has spent, right? Thora lahana buddhi pasi, sagata kale na lokansi, adi upazale tayasi thora manati. Start reading Das Bodh. That is the answer.
But there is one verse it goes like this. Shakyo vare jain chatrain ishita shena yoga. It says Buddhasya nastya ushada.
Yes. But since they exist, like just like the virus, we have to deal with them. For that, you have to take Drakshasam. Boost your immune power. Any other last round? Any other questions? Otherwise, we have to get on and stop and get to the next thing. Is there an equivalent of acupressure? See, great question. Is there an equivalent of acupressure? See, understand, I'm researching and I'm presenting advances or whatever ancient medicinal sciences. I'm not a medical doctor. Okay? So, other doctors will give you a better answer to that. But mine is more of a study in the sense of history or historical context. That's it? Okay, so now good questions. Usually, we don't have a time for more questions. Usually they say if there are no questions from an individual, either I did not tell you anything new or you did not understand what I said. Okay? Now, thank you very much.
Dr. Oak simply mesmerized with his talk. And about I do always stargazing, and I know Vasishtha and Arundhati and they are double star, Arundhati is a binary star. But I never know, today only I understood that they used to find out the Mahabharata period and all that. Simply interesting, and we had discussed a thin slice of the medicinal history. In such a nice way, such an interesting way, such a simplified way. So we are very thankful to her. So, thankful to him. I request Max sir to do the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful talk. Everybody energized with his talk. And very good note he has given is that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So what is it? Science starts with assumptions. So it's very true that periodic table has been started also with assumption. Everybody knows that. So it's a beginning for everybody. We can start assuming as many as possible possibilities and start working on those things. So, धन्यवाद पुन्हा एकदा फोक सर आणि उपस्थित मान्यवर आणि त्याची बोल मराठी उपस्थित मान्यवर प्राध्यापक वर्ग कॉलेजचे विद्यार्थी आणि श्रोतेवृंद आजच्या कार्यक्रमाची मुहूर्तमेढ ही खरं अर्थाने 1 वर्षापूर्वी सुरू झाली. मला वर्गमित्र नाशिकमध्ये निलेश यांचा कार्यक्रम ठेवला होता आणि त्या दरम्यान आमचा परिचय झाला आणि त्यानंतर आमच्या डायलॉगमध्ये आम्ही ठरवलं की आपण ठाण्यामध्ये का करू नये याचा कार्यक्रम. ठाण्यातील विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी हा आपण कार्यक्रम करावा आणि त्या उद्देशाने मी वाटचाल करत निलेशजींनी आपल्याला शब्द दिला आणि त्यांनी ठाण्याकरता 8 तारीख ही वेळ राखून ठेवली. त्यामुळे त्यांनी पुन्हा एकदा आभार मानतो आणि त्या माझ्या मित्राचे सुद्धा ज्यांच्या मार्फत मी यांना कनेक्ट झालो त्याचा सुद्धा मी आभार मानतो. अतिशय सुंदर कार्यक्रम झाला हा. आम्ही हा जो कार्यक्रम ठरवला घेण्याचा त्यावेळेस आम्ही ठरवलं की हा विज्ञान भारतीतर्फे कॉलेजच्या विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी आपण कार्यक्रम घ्यावा. विशेष करून ऑडियन्स शुड बी कॉलेज स्टुडंट्स. सो आय थँक्स टू प्रिन्सिपल श्री मराठे सर. त्यांचे मोलाचे सहकार्य लाभले आणि आय ऑल्सो थँक्स टू डॉक्टर पराटकर जे एक्स प्रिन्सिपल ऑफ वजेकर कॉलेज की ज्यांनी एक प्रमुख भूमिका बजावली की आमचं ठरलं की कुठल्या कॉलेजमध्ये घ्यावं हा कार्यक्रम. तर त्यांनी 0 डाऊन केलं की आपण घ्यायचं तर आपण ज्ञानसाधना श्री सतीश प्रधान ज्ञानसाधना कॉलेज या कॉलेजमध्येच आपण हे कार्यक्रम करूया असं त्यांनी ठरवलं आणि त्या दृष्टीने मी वाटचाल केली आणि प्रिन्सिपल सरांचं आम्हाला सहकार्य मिळालं. धन्यवाद. या कार्यक्रमासाठी कॉलेजचे मॅनेजमेंट चेअरमन श्री सतीश प्रधान सेक्रेटरी कॉम्रेड प्रधान यांनी कार्यक्रम घेण्यासाठी मान्यता दिली. त्याबद्दल आम्हा सर्वांच्या वतीने, विज्ञान भारती ठाण्याच्या वतीने, विज्ञान भारती कोकण प्रांताच्या वतीने आम्ही त्यांचे खूप खूप आभारी आहोत. या कार्यक्रमासाठी आपण कॉलेजच्या विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी हा कार्यक्रम घेत आहोत, पण फक्त कॉलेज पुरतच मर्यादित न राहता इतर शाळा व कॉलेजमधील विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी सुद्धा आपण एकत्र काम करू असा मी प्रस्ताव ठेवतो. आपण अशीच पुढे वाटचाल करत आहोत. की सुरुवात आहे, मॅडमनी पहिल्यांदा सांगितलं की हा नॅशनल सायन्स मंथ, आपण नॅशनल सायन्स डे सेलिब्रेट करतो, तर लेट अस स्टार्ट विथ नॅशनल सायन्स मंथ फ्रॉम दिस प्रोग्राम. आणि त्या अनुषंगानेच 11 तारखेला पुन्हा या सभागृहामध्ये अजून एक कार्यक्रम होणार आहे. त्यामुळे इट विल बी स्पेशलाइज अगेन डॉक्टर पाराटकर. आय शुड थँक्स टू डॉक्टर पाराटकर फॉर अरेंजिंग अँड ऑर्गनायझिंग दिस नेक्स्ट लेक्चर again in this college. Yadav sir from University, he will be coming here for this lecture. So again thanks to Dr. Paratkar. आपण हा कार्यक्रम यशस्वी होण्यासाठी कॉलेजचे स्टाफ मेंबर्स डॉक्टर बुलेसकर, डॉक्टर शिवदा नेते, डॉक्टर सरिता हजरवीर, डॉक्टर बॅनर्जी व अन्य स्टाफ मेंबर्स यांचे मोलाचे सहकार्य लाभले. कार्यक्रमाचे महत्त्वाचे घटक म्हणजे कॉलेजचे स्टुडंट्स, ऑल यू गाइज. आय होप यू मस्ट हॅव एन्जॉयड दिस प्रोग्राम अँड टूक सम स्टडी नोट्स फॉर युअर नेक्स्ट वर्कशॉप. सो आय होप समथिंग न्यू थिंग्स विल कम अप फ्रॉम दिस कॉलेज ॲज अ प्रोजेक्ट. सो ह्या विद्यार्थ्यांचे सुद्धा मी मनापासून आभार मानतो. आणि हे जे छोटे वृंद जे बाहेरून आलेले आहेत त्यांचे सुद्धा मी आभार मानतो. याचबरोबर विज्ञान भारतीचे पदाधिकारी, व्हाईस प्रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर भावे आणि श्री सुभाषजी भागवत यांचे आम्हाला कायम मोलाचे मार्गदर्शन लाभत गेले. ते या कार्यक्रमासाठी उपलब्ध झाले, त्यांचे सुद्धा मी आभार मानतो. आणि हा कार्यक्रम यशस्वी होण्याकरता विभाजित ठाणे टीम, त्यांच्याशिवाय हा कार्यक्रम होऊ शकत नाही. तर मॅडम मनीषा ओक, मिलिंद कुलकर्णी, आशिष मानकर, दीपक विस्पुते, कृष्णा रेड्डी असे असंख्य आमचे कार्यकर्ते यांच्यामुळे हा कार्यक्रम यशस्वी झाला. हे काही नावं घेतले, पण अन्य पण बरेचसे आमचे कार्यकर्ते जे आहेत उपस्थित आहेत, सर्वांची नावं घेणं शक्य नाहीये. तर या सर्वांचं मला खूप मोठा सपोर्ट मिळाला. त्यामुळे अशा अनेक उपक्रम आम्ही ठाण्यामध्ये आम्ही आजपर्यंत करत आलो आहोत. तर त्यांचे सुद्धा आभार. या कार्यक्रमाचे लाईव्ह टेलिकास्ट फेसबुकवरती जे करणारी टीम जे आहे त्यांचे सुद्धा विशेष आभार. सर्व कर्मचारी वर्ग, कॉलेजचे प्राध्यापक या सर्वांचे आम्ही आभार मानतो. आज संध्याकाळी निलेश यांचा कार्यक्रम पुन्हा एक होणार आहे मेडिकल इन्स्टिट्यूटमध्ये. त्यामुळे ज्यांना शक्य असेल त्यांनी अवश्य कार्यक्रमाला उपस्थित राहावे. मला खात्री आहे तुम्हाला सर्वांना हा कार्यक्रम नक्की आवडला असणार. फीडबॅक फॉर्म मला दिले का? फीडबॅक फॉर्म तुम्हाला मिळाले असतील तर फीडबॅक फॉर्म अवश्य भरून द्यावे. तुमचे फीडबॅक, युअर फीडबॅक विल बी व्हेरी मच हेल्पफुल फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस टू इम्प्रोवाइज. आणि ज्यांना विभाचे मेंबर व्हायचं आहे, विज्ञान भारती ज्यांना मेंबर व्हायचं आहे त्यांच्याकडे मेंबरशिप फॉर्म ठेवलेले आहेत, बाहेर ते पुस्तकं पण ठेवलेले आहेत विक्रीसाठी. तर त्यांनी अवश्य त्याचा लाभ घ्यावा. 2 कार्यक्रम फक्त मी सांगू इच्छितो आता पुढे होऊ घालणार आहे. भारतीय विज्ञान संमेलन जस्ट नोट डाउन द डेट्स 9, 10 and 11th May. It is going to happen at Hyderabad, and I suggest that the college should have an active participation in the Bharatiya Vigyan Sammelan and should present some good projects in coordination with Vigyan Bharati. So that could be a good achievement from our side. आणि ठाण्याचं नाव नक्कीच त्याच्यामध्ये आपलं नावावर येईल नक्कीच असं मला खात्री आहे. तसेच 6 आणि 7 जूनला विज्ञान भारतीचं राष्ट्रीय अधिवेशन हे मुंबईमध्ये होणार आहे. त्यामध्ये सुद्धा आपली उपस्थिती आवर्जून असावी ही मी तुम्हाला विनंती करतो. यावरून मी आपले समारोपाचे निवेदन संपवतो. धन्यवाद. पुन्हा एकदा सर्व विद्यार्थ्यांना धन्यवाद. You have made this day. Thanks to everybody. Thank you very much.
Let our program as Rashtragit. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाये तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. थैंक यू.
भारत माता की
जय.
भारत माता की
जय.
भारत माता की
जय.